She walked into the boardroom like she owned the place. Because as of that morning, she did. The doors of Sterling Auto Group's executive suite swung open and 30 heads turned. Kato Mbeki sat near the head of the table in his tailored navy suit, a folder of talking points in front of him, rehearsing the acceptance speech he'd give when they finally named him Chief Operating Officer. He didn't look up right away. He didn't need to. This was supposed to be his day. Then the chairman cleared his throat. "Before we begin, I'd like everyone to welcome our new majority shareholder." Kato's pen stopped moving. He looked up, and there she was, Amara Ndlovu, in a charcoal blazer, her expression calm, unreadable, terrifyingly composed. The woman he hadn't seen in over a year. The woman he assumed had crawled into some small apartment and disappeared from his life for good. His mouth opened. Nothing came out. He had no idea how she got here. He had no idea she now held more voting power over his career than the chairman himself. All he knew, in that frozen second, was that the ground beneath his feet had just shifted, and he had absolutely no idea why. To understand how Amara ended up standing in that boardroom, you have to go back 6 years to a cramped 2-bedroom flat in Bulawayo, where two people with nothing but ambition believed they could build something extraordinary together. Back then, Kato had a dream and no money. Amara had savings and complete faith in him. When he needed certification fees to qualify for a position in the automotive industry, she paid them without hesitation. When an industry conference in Harare could open doors for him, she covered the trip using money she'd been setting aside for their future. When his first real opportunity required capital he didn't have, she handed over funds she'd spent years accumulating. "One day, Amara," he used to tell her, holding her hands across their small kitchen table, "we're going to look back at this and laugh." She believed him. She believed in him. And for a while, it seemed like her faith was paying off. Kato landed a position at Sterling Auto Group. He worked relentlessly, climbed quickly, and within 2 years, he was no longer the nervous young man begging for opportunities. He was a name people recognized. At first, success made him grateful. He'd come home and thank her, tell her none of it would exist without her sacrifices. Then the money started changing him. The suits got more expensive, the dinners got later, the friends got flashier. Slowly, the language shifted too. He stopped saying "our future" and started saying "my success." Amara noticed, but she told herself it was just stress, just ambition, just a season that would pass. It didn't pass. It got worse. He became guarded with his phone, angling it away from her at the dinner table. He started coming home after midnight with vague explanations. One evening, when she asked who kept calling him so late, he snapped at her. "Do you have to question everything I do?" The words hit her like a slap. This wasn't the man who used to hold her hands and promise her a future. But she pushed the doubt down, told herself she was overreacting, and kept believing. Then she noticed the money disappearing. Small amounts at first, then larger ones, pulled from an account holding savings she'd built long before their marriage and protected carefully throughout it. When she asked, Kato claimed it was tied up in a business opportunity. She trusted him. That trust would become the most expensive mistake of her life. The truth arrived on an ordinary Saturday morning in the form of a banking alert on her phone, a massive withdrawal. Her hands shook as she opened the app. She called Kato immediately. He didn't answer, so she started digging. There was no business opportunity. The money had gone toward a down payment on a luxury vehicle, except the vehicle wasn't registered to Kato. It was registered to a woman named Selena Vance, someone Amara had never even heard of. Then she found the photo. Selena, glowing, standing beside a gleaming new car. Kato beside her, one arm around her waist, grinning like a man without a single burden in the world. The caption read, "Some men know exactly how to make a woman feel special." Amara's chest caved in. Every sacrifice, every late-night shift she'd worked to save that money, every dream she'd deferred so he could chase his, all of it had just bought another woman's smile. She confronted him that night. She expected guilt. She expected shame. Instead, his face twisted with anger. "You went through my finances? You used my savings," she said, her voice trembling but steady, "to buy another woman a car." Silence stretched between them like a wound. Then he said the words that would end everything. "You don't understand. Selena deserves nice things." Amara stood there, staring at the man she'd built her entire adult life around, and felt something inside her go quiet and cold. "And what did I deserve?" He had no answer. He had nothing. She didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She simply walked to their bedroom, packed a single suitcase with her documents and a few changes of clothes, and left the jewelry, the shared accounts, the life he'd built on her back, all behind her. Kato assumed it was temporary. "She'll calm down," he told a friend over drinks that week, already certain she'd come crawling back once the anger faded. She never did. Amara rented a small apartment on the edge of the city, and for the first time in years, she had to face herself without the identity of Kato's wife wrapped around her. It was terrifying. She cried more nights than she could count. She felt humiliated, hollowed out, financially betrayed in a way that made her stomach turn every time she thought about it. But somewhere in those long, quiet nights, the question in her head began to shift. She stopped asking, "Why did he do this to me?" and started asking, "What am I going to build now?" That question led her back to Daniel Okoro, a former mentor who'd once tried to pull her toward entrepreneurship before marriage, and sacrifice consumed her ambitions. When she told him what happened, he didn't pity her. "Do you remember what you were capable of before you married him?" he asked. "I don't know anymore," she admitted. "Then let's find out." Daniel introduced her to the financial realities Kato had never bothered to understand about her. Investments she'd made years earlier, quietly, patiently, had grown far more than either of them expected. And there was something else. Several shareholders at Sterling Auto Group were preparing to sell their positions. Amara saw the opportunity immediately. Not revenge, ownership. She began buying shares, quietly. No announcements, no confrontations, no attempt to reach Kato. While he remained completely unaware, his own world was already beginning to crack. His relationship with Selena collapsed once she realized his finances weren't nearly as stable as she'd assumed. The luxury car became a symbol of his recklessness, whispered about in the same circles that once admired him. His reputation at Sterling Auto Group began to erode. Meanwhile, Amara kept buying. One afternoon, Daniel looked at her across his desk and said quietly, "You've crossed the threshold." "What threshold?" "You now own more of the company than anyone else." She sat in silence, absorbing the weight of it. The company where Kato once strutted like royalty was now, in large part, hers. Which brings the story full circle. Back to that boardroom, back to Kato frozen in his chair as the chairman announced her name. After the meeting, Kato approached her, his composure cracking. "Can we talk?" "We are talking," she replied evenly. He fumbled through an apology, mentioned pressure, mentioned mistakes. Amara finally met his eyes directly. "You didn't make one mistake, Kato. You made a series of choices." "Are you going to fire me?" he asked, voice tight with fear. This was the moment the audience braces for revenge. Instead, Amara delivered something far more powerful. "No, your performance will determine what happens to you, not our marriage." She refused to run the company on bitterness. Instead, she introduced sweeping reforms, leadership pathways for women, transparent promotion systems, real financial accountability, mentorship programs, and training initiatives for women entering the automotive industry. Employees respected her. Investors took notice. Sterling Auto Group began expanding beyond Zimbabwe, drawing attention across southern Africa. Kato wasn't destroyed. He simply stopped being special. His position was quietly downgraded after an internal review, and the man who once believed success made him untouchable now had to meet standards Amara herself had built. Months later, Amara stood on a stage in Harare in front of hundreds of women at an entrepreneurship conference. Someone from the crowd asked if she ever regretted what happened. She smiled. I regretted trusting the wrong person, but I don't regret surviving him. The room fell silent, hanging on her next words. I thought I had lost everything when I walked away. Then I realized something. I hadn't lost my future. I had only stopped giving it to someone else. The applause was thunderous. Amara walked off that stage not as Kato's former wife, but as a leader whose journey now opened doors for women who once felt as trapped as she had. Because sometimes the greatest comeback isn't making the person who hurt you suffer. It's building a life so powerful their betrayal no longer defines your story. If this story moved you, hit that like button, drop a comment telling us what you would have done in Amara's shoes, and subscribe so you never miss the next story.